In my most recent video, I talked about how I was struggling to get a good game recorded, and I've dropped a lot of elo with some very unfortunate luck. And obviously, most of the games that I've lost are not due to bad luck, but there are some very funny or peculiar things that happen in these games. And I'm not just talking about having your portal stolen and missing out your legendary. I did promise a montage though, so let's go over some of the weird things that happened. Firstly, let's look at this game where I was definitely struggling, but my team was starting to hit the later stages of the game, fights starting leaning more and more in my favor, and I was definitely a contender of taking a top spot in this game. But I encountered this weird glitch where my Magearna gets double possessed, and then it just permanently joins my opponent's team. So not only did I lose my strongest unit, but my opponent gets it permanently. I get completely destroyed in a one-sided battle, but here's the kicker. The game doesn't register as the battle being over because the Magearna is mine. This round ends up being a draw, and it knocks both me and my opponent out, and because of health differential, I end up in the lower placement. We've got another game where I'm going for a Water 3 Dragon 3 opener, and all I need is a Bagon, and after rolling away all of my gold at level 4, I don't find a single Bagon, which is honestly not all that unlikely. But a couple of games later, I'm in a very similar situation where all I need is a Charmander, which is a lot easier to find. But I'll just let the live audio take it away. Roll on 1 costs, look for that Charmander, look for that Charmander, look for that Charmander, 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 Charmander. This is a disaster. 15 level 3 shops with no Charmander is very unfortunate. There's another dragon game where I got a bunch of Magikarps early on, but I just failed to fish up the last ones. Definitely unlucky, but not too uncommon. Some fights with bad ability whiffs, a winning battle losing due to unlucky confusion, a field game which has proven capable of beating my only opponent's team, but some unfortunate pathing results in a loss by a single HP. Our fluffy tails are gone. It's up to you, Beartick. Don't get frozen. Get out of there. Nice. 1 HP! And this is quite possibly the craziest thing that I have ever seen. I'm sitting at 72 HP while my 2 remaining opponents are at 7 apiece. Now, even if my team is not able to beat either of my opponent's teams, I'm still pretty much guaranteed a second place, right? Because they're likely gonna have to face each other and one of them is gonna knock the other out. Well, by some miracle, every remaining time that they are to face each other, not only do they match up against each other's ghosts, but they are somehow able to defeat the other one's ghost every time. This goes on for 4 rounds where they constantly dodge death, meanwhile I just get knocked out of the game at 3rd place. I've never seen anything like this before. It is absolutely insane to me. But yeah, that's only some of the craziness that I've seen in the last few days. Let's move on to this current game that I'm playing. In the first few rounds, nothing too remarkable. I have evolved myself a Lampent, and we are in a Chimchar region. Chimchar and Monferno are a little bit weaker in this patch, but they can definitely still be very strong with the right items. And I have the components to make an early game muscle band, so I'm gonna go for an early game win streak. I also checked the TM that I get from running Human 2, and I see that it is Payday, which is a very useful tool, especially early on for getting some extra money. I throw that on my backline Fennekin and look to evolve it so that Payday can pay out with more gold. And I'm also looking to evolve my Chimchar, which will make my front line a bit stronger and keep my Fennekin safe. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit slow and I get neither of those evolutions, so we'll head into our first fight with this weak fire team. Our first matchup is against an electric team with a Muscle Band Pikachu. It's definitely a losing matchup, but I'm more concerned about getting my team ready for a win streak. So while that battle goes on, I pick up whatever useful units I can, including a 3rd Chimchar, which evolves me a Monferno. And as we move on to the next round, I pick up an Ekans alongside a Black Glasses, and I throw in a Machop that I picked up, which gives me Fighting 2 synergy, a nice defense boost for my early game frontline, and not having my Fennekin evolved is quite bad, especially considering the fact that I'm trying to make use of that Payday TM. It's just much more reliable when your unit has evolved. I decide to make an early Wonder Box and throw that onto my Fennekin, and my next matchup against a Dark team goes much better, though my Fennekin doesn't pay out. In the next round, I grab myself an Abra and I replace my Lampent with it. Even though Lampent is an evolved unit, Abra just provides much better synergies without too much loss in stats. I now have Human 4 synergy, which increases everything's healing, And I also get Psychic 2 synergy, which is especially important on my Fennekin, which is trying to get kills with its ability. In the next battle against a water team, Fennekin gets very close to a bunch of payday payouts, but unfortunately the Monferno is just way too strong and steals all the kills. But whatever, a win is a win. We're trying to win every round and win streak our way to 50 gold. We can move on to our next opponent, which is running a Ghost 2 team, which once again we win handily, but Fennekin is just still not earning us any money. Any aspiring capitalists, do not hire this Fennekin because you are not going to get paid. But thankfully, in the next round, not only are we able to evolve our Fennekin into a Breaksin, which makes it a lot stronger, but I also pick up a Mystic Water, which I can use to make a Soldew, and with Soldew's scaling ability power, hopefully we'll be able to start earning some good money. We'll test it out in this next matchup against a fairly strong Water Ice team, and this time, alongside the win, Breaksin is able to pick up a kill and earn us 2 gold. And as we head into the round against Gyarados, I would say this opener overall has not been great. We did get a pretty nice win streak, but we are quite behind in terms of gold. Payday hasn't really paid out enough to warrant rolling down in the early rounds of the game, and although my setup right now is quite nice, my team doesn't really have great direction for the late game. Usually human teams like to lean towards Psychic or Fighting, and I'm not confident that I can do that with my items or the ad picks of this game. But as we take down Gyarados, I pick up a Fossil Stone, which makes me want to lean more towards Psychic, and we can really figure out which direction to take our team once we pick up our unique Pokemon. I'm just going to head into a portal with a human symbol, since a lot of the human uniques work pretty well with a Psychic Stone in a Psychic team. And I'm offered Regieleki as my human unique Pokemon. Regieleki with a Psychic Stone can work, but I'm not too attached to the idea. I'm not really an expert at Psychic synergy, so I'm not confident in my own ability to pilot this thing. So I'm looking at my other options alongside the ad picks, and I'm trying to see if there's an angle that I could pivot towards. It takes a little bit of time to figure it out, but I have a rough idea. Dragon is a very versatile synergy, and I see that Skrelp is added to the game. Skrelp has Aquatic synergy, and there are also a lot of other dragons with Aquatic synergy, including this Dracovish, so I'm wondering if I can shortcut my way to a late game Aquatic team by using all the Aquatic Dragon Pokemon that are offered. Now, Aquatic and whatever I'm running right now doesn't really have much overlap, but I do see that Krogunk is added into the game, which can work with what I have right now, as well as a late game Aquatic team. Especially alongside Skrelp and Dragon Synergy, you can provide Poison 3 as a bonus. So the game plan is to make a very hard pivot into Aquatic Dragons, and hopefully our early game human team with Payday on that Breaksin will provide us the much needed funds that will allow us to make this hard pivot. Our first matchup against a Water Ice team doesn't go very well, but Breaksin does pick us up 4 gold. So not too bad of a loss, as we are now offered a pretty interesting selection. There are advantages to any of these 3 choices. Both Inkay and Weasel are strong aquatic units, and Barboach offers the possibility of splashing in Fossil, which actually works pretty well with Aquatic. But ultimately I decide on Inkay, which comes alongside a Magnet, especially with my Dracovish, who has an ability that can be stronger with a good speed stat. And Inkay has Psychic Synergy, which can further empower my Payday Breaksin. So I'm investing a lot into this Breaksin, trying to earn as much money as I can with Payday. I make myself a Gracidia Flower and equip that onto my Dracovish, which is very nice because it helps both Dracovish and Breaksin a lot. With that, we'll take on a very strong Fairy 6 team with a scary Mimikyu, and a lot of poor targeting allows it to absolutely decimate my team, and Breaksin earns me nothing in this round. Very unfortunate, and our lead is definitely starting to crumble. But that's kind of expected when you make these hard pivots, and at least I'll be able to move a little bit sooner in the carousels, where I decide to pick up a Twisted Spoon so that I can make myself a Dawnstone. With that, I can splash Psychic Synergy onto one of my Pokemon. We'll throw it on my temporary Monferno, earning me Psychic Force Energy, which is going to make Breaksin's Payday deal even more damage. We'll take on an Electric Field team, and in this fight, unfortunately Breaksin misses its ability a bunch of times in a row, but it does do a lot of damage, almost one-shotting a lot of Pokemon, so we'll happily take a round 1 with 0 excess gold earned. And while we are still working on leveling up, I'm starting to pick up some dragons that I find in the shop, including the aforementioned Skrelp, which has a little bit of history with myself. Obviously, I can't take 100% of the credit, but I am the reason that Skrelp was added to the game. If you don't know why and would like to know, watch my video titled The Octillery Challenge. For now, we're taking on a Poison team with Poipole, I have 0 sources of Rune Protect, so these poison units can definitely shred through my team. But I do have Aquatic 2 synergy right now, which sends in a cleansing Aquatic Wave. It comes in at the perfect moment, keeping my important units alive, and with the Aquatic Wave assist, breaks and wins me the round, as well as earning me an extra 4 gold. You love to see it, and it's time to take on Mewtwo and Mew as we hit level 7. My item component rewards are a heart scale, and I also pick up a black glasses. And in the next round, I also decide to mess around with an unknown sea. It could potentially earn me even more money by equipping all of my units with an amulet coin. But unfortunately, my next matchup is against a very strong ice-water team. A lot of evolved units and a very tanky front line. Even my opponent's unevolved Ice Cream is doing some insane damage to my team, and my team gets obliterated without knocking down a single unit. Also, I don't really know why, but my opponent landed so many critical hits that entire fight. It just seems like nothing really went my way that fight. But that's fine. As we move forward, we pick up a second Skrelp as well as a Dratini. And Dratini is great because it is a dragon with aquatic synergy. I decide to sell off my Monferno and repurpose its items as we're entering into the late game, or at least nearing the late game, and I have enough units to warrant this transition. I'm level 7 now and I can definitely fit in Aquatic 6 synergy, but I kind of mess up and fail to throw in 7 units without realizing it. So we'll just awkwardly stumble forward with Aquatic 5 as we take on a Dark Wild team. Definitely gonna lose this matchup, but not before Breakson still earns us another 2 gold. And I have yet to go in depth about Aquatic Synergy or Dragon Synergy, so let's quickly do that. Aquatic Synergy spawns a wave after 8 seconds, which we've already seen do some great things. The wave deals damage, it cleanses your allies, enemies are pushed back, and your aquatic Pokemon are healed. And Aquatic Synergy also significantly reduces the duration of negative status effects on your team, so very useful against poison and ice teams. Aquatic Synergy is the most useful side synergy in the entire game. Currently, I'm able to hit Aquatic 6 synergy, which can pretty much make a lot of status effects non-existent, and you also get 2 aquatic waves. The second one hits after 16 seconds. Now, up until this patch, that's where Aquatic Synergy would end, and you would very rarely see someone run Aquatic Synergy as their main synergy, but we're in patch 6.2 right now, and there is still another level of Aquatic Synergy that we can hit. But before we get into that, let's talk about dragons. All dragon units' secondary synergy is counted twice. And not only does that allow us to hit later stages of synergies faster, but we can also splash in a lot of extra synergies that we wouldn't normally be able to. For example, I've got Poison 3 since Skrelp's poison synergy is being counted twice, which allows Krogunk and Skrelp to potentially poison my opponent's Pokemon. Though not the most impactful thing, it can actually help a lot against certain matchups, dealing some true damage. And Dratini has a doubled flying synergy, which doesn't do much, it just allows it to escape once it gets low health. That one is very insignificant, but it's there. Our next matchup is against a dragon team, and while we do lose pretty bad, I would say overall this fight is a lot closer than it actually appears, because although my team kind of failed to take down any of my opponent's Pokemon, so many of my opponent's Pokemon were just hovering at low HP for a good chunk of the fight. With that being said though, I'm still definitely not in a very good spot. We're very quickly approaching the bottom in terms of health, so we'll definitely need to start spending our saved up money very soon. In the next round, I level up to level 8, and I just need to pick up one more unit that would significantly make my team a lot stronger. I have yet to find it, and all of my units minus Breakson are unevolved, so it's definitely time to start rolling. Thankfully, it doesn't take long to grab myself a Goomy, which is the exact unit I was looking for. It is a dragon Pokemon with Aquatic as its second synergy, and that's all we needed to hit Aquatic 8. Now, our battles will have an aquatic wave hit every 8 seconds, and alongside the first aquatic wave, we get a Surfing Pikachu. Surfing Pikachu is a real cool guy. It has stats close to a legendary Pokemon, and it has a fairly strong ability that can cast more than an average ability does. Since Surfing Pikachu's PP bar is filled every time a wave spawns, it comes in dealing tons of damage to this opponent's water team, but unfortunately the rest of my units are just so incredibly weak. Breakson has definitely overstayed its welcome. The extra gold has definitely been very nice, but we are just bleeding way too much health at this point. So we're definitely looking for a replacement, for example this Sobble that I just found, and even though I shouldn't roll during this round, since we are at a PvE round, I decided to just do it anyways because I am at a low enough health where being stun locked and running out of time can be a bit of a concern. And while Skrelp is a permanent staple for my team, I do want to repurpose that Dawnstone onto my Sobble. It's fine to do this for now because I have a replacement Skrelp on my bench. I also am able to evolve myself a Dragonair and a Toxicroak. And we'll take on Ho-Oh and Lugia, who I forgot have shiny items. I forgot to position around that Comet Shard, but hopefully it's fine with the Surfing Pikachu. Down go the legendary duo, and my last item is going to be a lucky egg. My goal is obviously to pick up an aquatic legendary. There are 2 aquatic legendaries, and both of them would be great on my team for different reasons. The one I get is Volcanion, who is great at doing damage to multiple targets. This round, I also evolve myself a Sliggoo. I also do a lot of changes to my team. I get rid of all of my Psychic units in favor of Dragon 5. Now all of my Dragon units will start every battle with some extra shields, which is very nice. I also have a Frigibax, which is giving me Ice 2 synergy, a relatively small but very nice to have special defense buff for my entire team. And while Toxicroak is a very nice unit, I ultimately decide on favoring Water 3 over it. Since both Volcanion and Sobble are going to be my late game carries, I also do some last second shop rolls, picking up whatever duplicates I can find. And at the last second, I find myself a Ditto, which I can use to evolve my Sobble into Drizzile. So my team going into this round and my team leaving this round look completely different. Let's see if it's enough to start winning rounds in the late game, where we start things off against a Fairy Sound team. Thankfully, our opponent's Pokemon are all bunched up for our Volcanion to get some really nice ability casts. It also rolled some amazing items on its Wonder Box, and our team very quickly wins as Surfing Pikachu drops in and says hello. Next round, I decide to do a little bit of repositioning. Kind of awkward, but I want my Dracovish to splash its Gracidia flower onto Drizzile and Volcanion. It is a frontline unit, so this positioning is a little bit weird, but it works. We'll take on the Electric Field team, who's currently in second place. Once again, the bunched up units take immense damage from Volcanion, followed by Drizzile, who's able to hit multiple targets with its sniping ability. Another round confidently won, where Surfing Pikachu once again makes a guest appearance. And in the next item carousel, I see a Dawnstone, which would be very nice because it would re-enable my Psychic synergy. Ultimately, I figured the Power Lens is more useful because I don't want anyone else to have it and use it against me. So thankfully, I'm able to grab that up. And I actually have 9 aquatic units, which I don't need. I can re-enable Psychic synergy while maintaining Water 3 synergy by running this Slowpoke. I throw the Power Lens on my Sliggoo because it's the unit with the highest special defense on my team. That's going to maximize the amount of damage that the Power Lens can reflect back. I'm also able to evolve myself a Dragalge, I'm pretty sure that's how that name is pronounced, as well as a Slowbro. Now we're taking on an Amorphous Ice team. They've got a very dangerous Articuno, but thankfully Aquatic 6 synergy kind of naturally counters Ice teams. Still, a ton of team-wide burst damage from that Articuno. It almost completely wipes out my team, but we still have a few healthy Pokemon, and the Aquatic Waves are just providing so much healing for those 2 units, and our Surfing Pikachu shreds the remaining HP on our opponent's last 2 Pokemon. Very nice to see. At this point in the game though, we don't have a lot of money, and we've pretty much hit all the evolutions that we can. I suppose we could still get an Arctobax, which would definitely be nice, but it's not going to provide anything too crazy for our team. And level 9 is just way too far away, so we'll just continue along against the Dark Wild team, who is still only level 7. Their team is still looking quite strong, and they're able to burst down my Drizzile before it's able to cast its ability. However, our Volcanion is still an absolute kahuna. The Aquatic Wave is also dealing a ton of damage to the squishy wild units, and with that, it's another round 1. I decide to mirror my units to the left just to shake things up. We've got a PvE round against the legendary birds, and as a reward I decide to grab myself an X-ray vision, just because there's been fights where my Drizzile fails to cast its ability, and the extra speed will definitely help it out a lot. Our next opponent is a very strong looking dragon team. Thankfully, my Volcanion is once again well protected while their units are bunched up together. Drizzile is also able to help out, and even the Power Lens on my Sliggoo is contributing. And once the Aquatic Waves kick in, the addition of a Surfing Pikachu is going to seal this player's fate. Because of our win streak, we're actually starting to build up a bit of money. Level 9 is a possibility, but overall it's not going to be that important. What is important, however, is positioning, and seeing that my opponent also has a Drizzile, who has Water 9 synergy backing it up, it will very likely cast before mine is able to. So I'm definitely trying to position around that. I put my important units in the center while I put my Dragalge in the corner. Unfortunately, my opponent came prepared and they swapped their entire team to the other side. Thankfully, my units are quite bulky, and Sliggoo is even able to reflect some damage with its Power Lens. My opponent also has a Volcanion of their own, which does massive amounts of damage, but thankfully my Drizzile was safe that entire fight, and I've also got Aquatic Waves helping me out even further. Ultimately, I'm able to win the round despite inoptimal positioning. We've got yet another carousel. This time it's Munchlax, giving everyone a picnic set. I also decide to grab a Pokédoll because none of the other items seem all that impressive to me. If anything, the Pokédoll can help our Sliggoo reflect a little bit of damage back. So we'll go ahead and throw the Pokédoll on my Sliggoo. I'm also trying to keep tab on my opponents and make sure that I'm positioned well for their teams. Our next matchup is the Scary Articuno team. This player has eaten their picnic set, so their team is looking very strong. My team is just not able to deal enough damage to that high special defense ice team, which is being buffed even further by sandwiches. The sandwiches are so impactful that it even beats the player in first place. But that's okay, I still have my own picnic set, and I did have HP to lose. It might be close, but I think I should be okay facing them moving forward. I mean, I could use my own picnic set to knock them out, and after seeing the Drifloon player also use their own picnic set, that puts me in a pretty nice spot where I can use it to pretty much guarantee a round win. For now, let's take down the legendary dogs, where I decide to grab myself a second Gracidia flower. My carries at the moment are Drizzile and Volcanion. The rest of my units are there just for their synergies. And I also decide to have a little picnic for my units because I know that I will be facing the Drifloon player this round, and the player in second will be facing my Ghost, so that means I get to double up the effects of my sandwiches and hopefully knock out the Articuno player from the game. I also decide to dump money into level 9 since I have earned a lot of gold. Unfortunately, I am a little too slow to get a useful unit in, so instead we got a Magikarp. Obviously not great, but it's probably not going to really make a difference because our team is super strong. Our opponent's Drizzile even takes itself out thanks to the Power Lens. And while my team does beat out the player in second place, unfortunately they are able to hang on with just 1 HP. So we are going to have to face that Scary Articuno once again, and this time without sandwiches, so I'm hoping that our 9th unit will be enough. After rolling away the rest of our money, I decide on throwing in a Noibat, whose sound synergy is pretty insignificant, but at least it does provide the potential for a team-wide buff. But ultimately, I do it for the Dragon Star. Since Noibat is a dragon, all of my dragon units will get a tiny bit of extra shielding thanks to Dragon 5. Alright, Ice player. They've bunched up their units, which is definitely nice for my Volcanion, but unfortunately it does some terrible pathing and it casts on a single ice cream cone. But at least the Drizzile is still doing work, and also Surfing Pikachu just entered the chat. It wipes out pretty quickly, but not before getting some really nice casts. Ultimately, it comes down to Lapras versus Volcanion. Lapras is super tanky and it has a muscle band, so it's really not looking great. The Aquatic Wave Synergy Wave comes in and it completely saves the day. But we're not done yet because that was just our opponent's Ghost. We gotta face them for real just one more time, and after scouting their board, I'm fairly confident that my team will do much better if they're positioned on the left side. I'm really trying to keep my Drizzile safe and snipe down that Articuno, while also having the Volcanion engage on a clustered group of enemies. Let's see if this will work in the very final match in the game. The Sobble's ability is definitely targeting our opponent's Articuno, but it's doing very little damage with so few Soul Dew stacks. Volcanion, however, is getting decent casts with some really nice impactful burns. The Aquatic Wave is keeping our Sobble safe, but also topping up some health bars. Surfing Pikachu comes in with some nice ability casts and keeps the opponent's Gyarados at bay. Another Aquatic Wave comes in and it's a huge heal on our units, and we're able to win this fight more convincingly than the previous. And there you have it. It's a vertical aquatic victory. Shoutouts to Surfing Pikachu. Hope you all enjoy the game. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next game.